Hello. Um, so before I start talking about cutter numbers, who's excited about cutter numbers? Woo! Um, Glad lunch has really given you guys some energy. Okay, so before I start talking about this, I got the idea for this and presented it to our library because of a presentation by Amber Billy, who used to be at Bard. If you're interested in critical cataloging, CritCat, hashtag CritCat, is that's something that she's been very involved in. It's just a good name to search to find interesting things. Okay. All right. So cutter numbers, obviously part of the Library of Congress classification system. The N3 through N5 and .O. So these are, I'm assuming, no, probably a lot of you guys use Dewey. Right. Okay, but you must have a similar thing. So the .N, the cutter numbers go at the end of a book to denote something. And one of the things that cutter numbers represent, also I'm not a cataloger, not a cataloger. Jake is laughing because Jake works with me and he did the cataloging part of this with his friend. Where was I? Oh, right. Okay. So in this case, the .N and the .O are used to represent demographic groups, generally race or ethnic group. And there's a huge long list of all of the various groups of people that you can add to your catalog record. But that includes some terms that are now potentially harmful at worst, and they've been deprecated. Okay, so the Library of Congress has actually taken down these cutters, but they're still in our stacks. So .N3 through .N5, the N meant Negro. We don't use that term anymore, right? Saying it out loud right now. And then the O is for Oriental. These are terms that we would never use in our subject headings, but it is represented in our classification system. Okay, so when we started looking into this, what's the point and will anybody notice was the big question, right? So one thing, regardless of the impact on our patrons, we try to be consistent with our cataloging. So these cutter numbers are not approved in the LC classification system. We're supposed to replace them, but we have not. As far as our patrons are concerned, the space between the N, which has now been replaced with a B for Black or African American, could be a matter of 2 books. But it could also be a matter of a shelf, depending on what kind of book in what subject area it is. And an example, we have a faculty publication stack, or sorry, shelf up in our library, and we have a faculty member who has published on the same topic for years, various, variations on the same theme. Her first book, the cutter number is, I think the first book was actually .B. And then not the same book, but book on the same topic, next one, .N. That's the later book. How did that happen? Well, some of the publishers and vendors have not fixed their records. If you look in OCLC, you can see the suggested call numbers will frequently include both the call number with the dot B or the dot N without any, there's like, what's the difference? Most people wouldn't know, like, alphabetically, there's no indication what those things mean. So, so her books were separated by a few other books. Anyway, and also, it's a remnant of how systemic racism is represented in our catalog, right? And if you're afraid to go like too deep into critical cataloging, investing in a whole remediation, kind of issue with your subject headings, or whatever, if that seems overwhelming, this is pretty easy. Yeah? Pretty easy. Okay. All right, so what did we do? Jake and Emily McDeal were working on the cataloging. We started with a list of call numbers that Amber Billy actually linked to in the cataloging lab. Has anybody heard of the cataloging lab? So it's a good center of information about critical cataloging. And they do a monthly newsletter keeping you up to date on things like the Gulf of America. What are you going to do about your Gulf of America subject headings? If you've got public funding, do you need to change your heading to the Gulf of America? Well, if you have a vendor that's updating your authority records, then it's automatically going to happen. You have no choice. Vassar, don't tell anybody. We're not going to accept the Gulf of America. We're replacing that with a local heading. So that's our little bit of rebellion. All right, so we started with the seed list. It was up on a blog. The blog was I never metadata I didn't like.com. Sadly, that blog is gone, and so is the list. But before the list went away, we copied the whole thing, and now it's in a Google Doc for anyone who would like to start this kind of project themselves. We added to that list with me. It was very early, not very early, I can't say that anymore. I haven't been an e-resources librarian for a very long time. I've been there long enough, though, that I shouldn't have, it shouldn't have been as lame as it was. But the search that I did to try to find more was literally in our ALMA, our behind the scenes ILS, to search for .n. And then I was doing a lot of like manual, like looking at the subject headings to see what the .n correlated with. And sometimes it correlated to this demographic group, and sometimes it was just a last name or something like that. So that wasn't super thorough. But when I went into ALMA Analytics, does anybody here use ALMA? You, and anyone out in the Zoom world, I discovered that somebody else had already written this lovely MySQL formula to pull all of this stuff magically out of your catalog. So I've linked to that in the same document that has those Ganin cutter numbers. Let's see. All right, yeah, so at this point, we have reclassed approximately 1,800 volumes. That sounds right? Yes. And we haven't started on the O's. We're going to do the O's next. Did you know that? No. All right, so these are the resources and references. I've got the my list of call numbers and the original Ganin list of call numbers are in there. The link to the cataloging lab, really a great thing to check out. We used ClassWeb to make sure we were doing the right thing with our updating our cutter numbers The QR code goes to the Vassar College Library lists. And I think that's it. Questions? I think I even finished early. Well, all right then. I hope that some of you take a look to see if you just take a look and see what you've got in your collection. Do you have, if you don't have Dewey, if and decide if it's worth it to you to undertake this kind of effort. All right.